I'm not really a doctor. I'm not really a doctor. EMC, yeah, Dr. Abul Khair Mohammed Imran. I mean, that's besides the point. That you don't need to go that far. It's all public domain. Stop it. Okay, look, you're making your point. You're making your point. I'm not really a consultant. Fellow of the. Let me just try and have a conversation. I'm trying to spill my guts out here. Where did you find that? I haven't seen that in like months. What do you mean? It's been under the bed the whole time. Okay. Let me rephrase it so that people don't get too confused. Would that be better? Anyway, move out
Relax.
the way. Move out the way.
Okay,
move out the way.
okay.
Honestly, sorry about that. Listen, I guess the point of this video really is to talk about something that I've felt for a very, very long time. And it's not something I really had a name for until very recently, actually. Something called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is something where you kind of feel like you don't belong, or you're a fraud, or you're just kind of pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, and you're not really who you say you are. And that is something I felt all the way through medical school. Actually, I got into medical school, and I felt like I didn't really deserve my place. And in some respects, I still feel like I didn't. It's an incredible gift that was given to me through the forces of nature, whatever you want to say. And then I had a really tough time during medical school. I wasn't, when you're on YouTube these days, you'll watch a lot of videos of young medical students and stuff doing their own YouTube thing, which is great. But they all seem to push this idea that you've got to be super productive, super intelligent. They've never failed an exam in their life and all that kind of stuff. And I wish that was my story. I wish that I was a high achieving, never failing individual that got everything from the outset. That isn't my story, actually. I struggled a fair bit. And I think as a result of struggling and being in an environment where people were actually like that, yes, you do get a vast majority or a vast amount of medical people who are high achieving. You feel kind of out of place when you're not really achieving the same kind of accolades. So all the way through medical school, I always felt like I didn't really belong, and I was a bit of a fraud. And at some point, I'd get kicked off and I'd get kicked out, and it didn't happen. I managed to get to the end and qualify, and I still remember walking onto the wards thinking, what on earth am I doing here? Like, now I've actually got people's lives in my hands. In a matter of speaking, I mean, as much as a junior doctor can have someone's life in their hands. But it really felt like I was completely out of my depth. And any moment now that someone would notice that I didn't know something that I probably should, etc. It was a really tough time. And no doubt I'll be making videos on the subject of becoming a newly qualified doctor all those years ago. And then I managed to get into radiology training. And again, it was another one of the situations where I felt like I must have pulled the wool over people's eyes for me to be able to get into radiology training in the first place. And that's the thing, like anyone who feels imposter syndrome, you could literally give me every single fact, every little thing that I've done over the years. Say, look, you've done this, but you've done this, and you've done this, and you're clearly quite qualified. And I'll still be able to turn around and say, yeah, but I'm not really. And so again, during my radiology training, I felt like at some point, the wool would be pulled away and they'll be able to see who I really am. I wasn't even meant to be a doctor in the first place and that kind of stuff. And again, I really struggled with the exams. And, this is the thing, like, when you're on social media, like YouTube, Twitter, all these kind of things, it's like an echo chamber of success. I mean, that's what it is, isn't it? Like, you don't really have anyone like on Twitter or Facebook or wherever really talking about failure, right? So when you have this situation where people get matched to whatever training scheme they want, or they pass their exams or get the foundation or junior doctor jobs that they want, there's just a barrage of messages that fly out, barrage of tweets and all sorts that fly out. And there's going to be like a few people who are in the position that I was, where you don't quite get what you want the first time at least. And they can be really depressing. And I think it's a real shame that, yes, it's great to, it's great to sort of celebrate your own success. But I think sometimes that is at the cost of others who aren't as lucky, who aren't as privileged as you have or you've been. So yeah, I managed to somehow meander my way through my radiology training, and no doubt that's a whole a great story that I will elaborate on at some point on this channel. Next thing you know, you've hung around long enough for people to start calling you consultant. I still remember, like, in the first few weeks of being consultant, I had a registrar, like a junior person to me, sitting with me, you know, apparently trying to learn from me, which I thought was a bit weird. I never had anyone sitting with me to learn from me before. And you know, she picked up the phone and she was like talking, and I think this person on the other end of the phone was giving a fair bit of grief. And then after a while, she's like, well, you know what, I'm just going to ask my consultant. And I kind of looked at her thinking, me? Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, all right. Yeah, give me the phone. And you take the phone and you'll be like, hi, I'm Dr. Lasker. I'm a consultant radiologist, I suppose. The point is, it's very difficult to really shake that kind of feeling off. And in medicine as well, like even when you've got colleagues that are consultants as well, depending on where you work, they're more than happy to remind you when you've made a mistake or you're not quite performing to what they perceive a consultant to be. But I guess the point is, you know, it's a good and bad thing, isn't it? Like, having a bit of imposter syndrome is a good and bad thing. It's good because you kind of appreciate what you have. Like, when I look back at the kind of career that I've had so far, like, if it went nowhere beyond this, like, genuinely, if I'd gone to medical school and got nowhere else beyond medical school, or if I'd become a junior doctor and never got beyond being a junior doctor, there's very little to complain about. I mean, those are some pretty decent achievements in my opinion. And I think just having that sort of idea that, you know, you are lucky and maybe you are a bit of a fraud makes you really appreciate the things that you do have and think that, you know, you are in a very privileged position. I'm going to take that on this one. And there's a song they said, never ever forget that you're living someone else's dream. And that certainly feels like the case, especially when you meet people who have tried to get to the same position as you and haven't quite made it. I guess the point in this video really is that no matter at what stage of your life and whatever your achievements, there'll be a certain number of us that will always feel like we don't really deserve what we've got, or we're not really deserving of the title that you have. And believe me, yeah, it doesn't matter how senior you are, and I've actually asked people who are far more senior than myself, and they'll say to me, genuinely, Imran, I still feel like I'm winging it. So I guess the moral of the story really is, if you do feel like a bit of imposter, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. All of us are imposters on some level. All of us are winging it. Sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it. And I think that's the truth for any professional, wherever you are. You fake it until you make it. You'll never feel like you're good enough. And there'll be plenty of people who'll tell you that you're not good enough. And you have to sort of believe in yourself that, first of all, you're a human being too, and you do have achievements that has enabled you to be in the position that you are. A bit of a weird and short video. It sort of came about after I saw a lot of social media going on about, you know, like people's achievements and stuff, which I'm not taking anything away from at all. You know, well done on your achievements and things. But we try and remember the little guy like me who don't quite get what they want straight away, and, you know, have to slide through Twitter, Facebook, watch everyone else with your dream, at least for a while. Thanks for listening.